In the Huddle was created to give student athletes, parents, and coaches an inside look at the journey through US college sport and all that comes with it. The demands, the experiences, the excitement, and the opportunities available to our student athletes from around the world. Study and Play USA facilitates a comprehensive, customised approach for student athletes and families for their whole journey, from their high school preparation years right through to US college graduation. Hi listeners, welcome to this edition of In the Huddle. Well, I'm pumped about this episode because we're sitting down with a young man about to embark upon what almost all of us can only dream about. Micheal Zhang, today's guest, is shortly about to board a plane, destined for Boston, Massachusetts to start as a freshman at Harvard University. Micheal's is a story we have been privileged to be a small part of, and we plan on following Micheal's journey as he progresses with his fellow Harvard class of 2024. Micheal, welcome, mate.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for having me. It's great to be on your podcast. I really appreciate it.
No worries. And sorry to embarrass you there at the top, mate.
That's all good.
You deserve a pretty good introduction, I reckon. Mate, we'll start off. I guess it's been a few months now since you've accepted the offer to attend the prestigious Harvard University. Yeah. Has it sunk in yet?
Not really. I mean, I don't think it'll really hit me until I'm boarding the plane and I'm really get there and meet everyone. But no, it's definitely been good. I've got the opportunity to meet some of my future classmates on like the Facebook group chat and stuff like that. And it's definitely really awesome to meet them and like hear about like their stories and stuff like that. It's definitely awesome.
Great. And they're from different countries and.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's about like 15% internationals and then like 85% Americans. So there's a lot of different people from different countries and also a lot of Americans as well. So it's awesome.
Fantastic, mate. Can you talk us through the moment the offer became official? Like, how did you find out?
Yeah, sure. So basically all the Ivy Leagues released their decisions on the same day, same time. So can't remember exactly what day, but it was basically like 10 a.m. on like sometime in January, and then so you go through all of them at the same time, and then you go one by one. You like go on this online portal, and then you click view status update, and then it's either a letter of congratulations or a letter of rejection.
Were you pretty confident you were going to get in, or was it what was your initial?
Yeah, honestly, I think I was actually pretty confident like before, like if like maybe 6 months before I put my application in, I was like I think I have a pretty good shot. But then as the weeks passed and the date got closer and closer, I became less and less sure. And by that point, I was kind of like, it is what it is. I was actually I was preparing for rejection at that point, but luckily it worked out.
And mum and dad, what was their reaction?
Yeah, so they were with me by my side, and they were so happy, really happy for me. We just like started like cheering, and then went out for lunch or something like that. So yeah, it was definitely a good day.
Fantastic, mate. No, I remember the little note you sent us when you got in, and we were just we're pretty pumped for you too, mate. So, but it wasn't just Harvard, hey, that you accepted into. You applied to a number of upper echelon colleges, including other Ivy Leagues, and you accepted into those too. But I remember you said that just gracing the campus of Harvard, just being there, setting foot on campus, there was a bit of a vibe or a feeling that kind of just felt right. Can you describe that for us?
Yeah, for sure. So basically in February, I went to, I had an official visit at a few colleges. So I was in, I went to New York, Atlanta, St. Louis, and I was actually in Boston visiting Tufts University there. And then one of the days I had free, I decided to just go for a walk at Harvard just to see, what it was like. And, I was at night, and it was such a surreal feeling. I mean, just walking down there, like the campus is so beautiful. It's like so old. And then, it just feels like, I don't know, it just felt different, not to put anything like Tufts was, amazing university. I love my time there, but I don't know, I just felt like they speak a lot about in America. They speak a lot about like you step foot on the campus and then you just know if it's right. And I think that was the feeling I kind of got with when I visited Harvard, albeit, I was only there for a few hours, but it was definitely, I think it was something special.
Yeah. Did you get to? So it was at night. So you probably didn't meet too many people.
I didn't meet anyone there. I was just walking by myself around the campus. But it was beautiful.
And did you go on that trip on your own? Did mum and dad or mum?
No, I went by myself. So it was definitely a challenge, but it was an unreal experience. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. It's amazing city, Boston and that area, Cambridge around Harvard. There, it's as you say, it doesn't feel like the rest of America in a lot of ways. It feels like you saw transported back in time a little bit, maybe UK kind of scenery and that sort of thing. So yeah. I was lucky enough to go to Harvard, not as a student, but as a visiting competitor. Yeah, it is. You can't help but be sort of in awe of the place when you're around there. So you get to do that for every day for 4 years coming up. So it's amazing, mate. You must be still pinching yourself, I bet.
Yeah, for sure.
um, all right. So I embarrassed you at the start. I'm going to embarrass you again, mate. Sorry. But for listeners that don't know you, Micheal, only a year ago, you're in Sydney attending the McDonald College. You had the honour of being the school captain there. Which is obviously a big honour and obviously big time commitment. Not only that, you were focused on finishing your HSC studies and excelling in that regard. And of course, you were deep into the process of finding, the right fit college in the USA. You're playing tennis almost every day and playing tournaments on the weekends. But if all that wasn't enough, you also entered pretty rarefied air when you scored a perfect score on America's, famous entrance exam, the SAT exam. So firstly, for us mere mortals, Micheal, how on earth did you manage all of that?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely tough, I guess. Um, you know, the way you make me sound, it wasn't maybe that impressive the way you put it, but no, it was definitely tough to balance, I guess, in terms of time management. So I guess I don't know the way I thought about it. Like I thought academics was only like something that I would put in enough time into to do well, but it wasn't something that a lot of my peers, they were putting like all 100% of their time and effort into academics. But it was for me, it was something that I took as more of a secondary to my like tennis and our leadership roles, and then I just put in enough time to do well. And I actually think that actually helped me in terms of took stress off my academics, and it actually kind of like I was able to do well in my academics without really putting too much time and effort into it. So I think it was just about for me finding that balance between my extracurriculars and my academics as well. And then I also being part of the McDonald College as well, and their partnership with Voyager, that really helped me as well, because basically for those like listeners, I don't know if they know about it, but pretty much it's a really integrated system where we were doing school from maybe like 8 to 2, and then we'd take the bus to Olympic Park and we'd train, for 3 hours, 4 hours there. And then everyone, the coaches and the teachers there really, know that you're aiming for that pathway. And I guess they really helped me in terms of, understanding that I was like trying to balance these two things. And then, that was definitely super important as part of like my overall like being able to balance everything.
Yeah, you made some really good points there, and we'll talk more about McDonald College and Voyager Tennis Academy a little bit later. But you're right; it's very rare in Australia to have a school and sporting organisation, I guess, or an academy in this sense, working together, and specifically towards the US pathway. And I think that's because more and more student athletes in Australia are doing that. It makes sense for more schools to have that model, and I look forward to seeing hopefully other schools adopt that. But they're certainly front runners in that respect in Australia. Both Voyager and McDonald. But we'll come back to them as well. The other point that I think you made there that I think is really worth expanding just a little bit on is I remember sitting in on a little chat that you had with some of our student athletes recently, and you mentioned that you didn't study. You think, okay, someone who scores a perfect score on the SAT scores virtually a perfect score on their HSC or thereabouts. You must have been in the books all day, every day, but your philosophy was less is more, quality studying smart rather than studying hard, if that makes sense, or long hours. I remember you saying something about, 15 minutes of study can be really useful on the bus on the way home or on the bus on the way to tennis. And you used every little minute of the day, didn't you?
Yeah. So I didn't want to make it sound like I wasn't studying, but yeah, no, I definitely was trying to make the most of my time is what I was like trying to say. So, training, 20, 25 hours a week and then having other extracurriculars as well. It's definitely tough on the schedule. So yeah, basically, the way I tried to get around that was, yeah, number one, using the small time. So I was studying on the commutes to school and commutes to training. It would be, maybe studying at recess and lunch as well. Which was quite sad. But no, it was, I think, like that was a big chunk of time as well. Maybe an hour a day was like extra hour of study there, as well, like at tournaments and stuff. Instead of like hanging out just at the courts all day, I would try to like stay in my hotel room and just do some study there. Stuff like that, really, squeezing, making the most out of your days. I think that's a big part of it. So yeah, and also I do feel like having the philosophy that it's about balance definitely actually helps. Like the people that I know that did the best in HSC and in SATs were actually the people who probably studied probably less, but they more quality as well. So whereas people who like just spent all their days just cramming the books probably might not have done it as well. So yeah.
Yeah, I think also the physical activity is good for your mental
For
state and
sure, yeah, definitely.
clear
Yeah,
a mind and all those sort of things to have an outlet to go play tennis or whatever the sport may be. I think that's a really important message that you've just sent because, yeah, and we hear of kids postponing or putting their sport on hold during HSC, and we think it's a big mistake, but
yeah,
and we understand why people would do that because it's an important thing, but um, you know I think taking advice from someone like yourself is not a bad idea. So um, let's focus on that SAT score, that perfect SAT score, not one wrong answer. How on earth? Um, Again, Michael, it's obvious you're smarter, I guess, than the average student, probably to begin with. But in sitting down and listening to your recent webinar masterclasses that you provided to our Study and Play USA student athletes as they prepare for their SAT exams, your position is that there is more to it than simply being good at maths and English, right?
yeah.
There is a strategy involved. So, you just talk us about your philosophy of approaching the SAT and how you're able to get that perfect
Yeah, for
score.
sure. I mean, especially for Australian students, I think the SAT exam is like almost like this like behemoth where we don't really practice this style of question. We don't have much exposure to it. Whereas, you see in America and other kind of those college dominant countries where people do so many prep classes and stuff like that. So they have like this inherent advantage where they're used to these exams questions. But I do think the SAT questions are unique in the sense that the way they're phrased and the way the stuff that they're designed to test is something that we're not really used to here. So the way I see it, like the SAT exam is almost kind of designed to, be tricky. It's designed to, throw in certain answers that might be right, might be wrong, right? And they're designed to trick you in that sense. So my kind of the main philosophy, I guess, if you want to sum it up, would be like, know that, there's only one correct answer for each question. And know that it's not as hard as it might seem at surface level, and just have that confidence to kind of go through each question and see why every answer except the right answer will have something wrong about it, and then it's just about you going through calmly and methodologically through each of those questions, answer choices, sorry, and then finding out which one's wrong and for what reason, and then slowly identifying which one's the correct answer, I guess.
Yeah, and that's there's two types of tutoring I think that you can do for that. Like some people may just need some work on their basic maths and their basic
Yeah, for
English.
sure.
So for those listening, it is a maths and English test, ultimately multiple choice. So as Michael said, there's always going to be in any multiple choice test, there's always one right answer, but there's always then become some ambiguous answers in there to throw that in there and confuse you. So, but yeah, there's the working on the maths and English side of it, but then there's other tutoring for actually preparing to take the SAT. So
Yeah, definitely.
strategy, as you said, or how to approach
Yeah.
tests. And I know you're starting to do a bit of tutoring, aren't you? A little bit on your own.
Yeah. So, a lot of people, obviously the SAT is not something that a lot of people offer tutoring here, and it's becoming bigger and bigger, obviously going to America. So, and the SAT is like I mean, it's very important, obviously, for the college admissions there. So yeah, I am starting to, offer private SAT tutoring, stuff like that.
That's good to hear. And again, as I said, if I had a son or daughter going through this process, or if I was going through it again, and I wish I was, yeah, I'd be coming to, I'd be knocking on your door, that's for sure. So, but look, in the grand scheme, you just sort of touched on it, but in the grand scheme of preparing for college, now that you've been through the application process with some of the best unis in the world, which are quite stringent in their application process, I guess you mentioned how important the SAT is exam, but how important is it? And when we relate it to, I guess, high school results, and now obviously you're in Sydney with HSC, but for all kids around Australia and in other countries focusing on their last year in school or last couple of years, so grade point averages and things like that. How does SAT compare in importance to those, do you think?
Yeah, sure. I mean, so ultimately, when you're like a student athlete and you're contacting coaches, I think there's probably two main metrics they look at. So there's the SAT and there's the GPA, obviously. And then I'd say they're probably equal in weighting. I'd almost say the SAT could be more important simply because, and I mentioned this in a webinar recently, but simply because, GPA is very, school by school dependent. Like you might have a 4.0 at one school, but it might mean nothing. Whereas, a 3.8 school and another 3.8 GPA at another school might be very impressive. So for coaches looking at GPA, it's not a universal metric that they can, easily see which student is more, I guess, academically able than another. Whereas the SAT, it's a standardized exam. It's an exam where no matter who's taking it, the score means something. A coach can compare between country to country even to see who's like, I guess, more academically able for college preparation. So, I'd say the SAT is definitely hugely important in that regard.
Yeah. So look, I guess one of the confronting things for some families is that, it's a 3-hour test, roughly, right? 3 hours, versus your 4 years of high school that count towards the US pathway, 9, 10, 11, 12. They're virtually worth the same.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's insane, right? Yeah.
So we get a little bit focused on our system here naturally because that's what we're in and that's what we know.
Yeah.
But once families make that decision that they're going to go to college in America, then a lot of the preparation should be on the SAT, correct?
Yeah, focus should definitely shift. I mean, for when I was applying like early to schools, they didn't even look at my ATAR hadn't even come out yet and they were making decisions. So like that just goes to show how not irrelevant the HSC is, but it's how it's like not as, I guess, important, as not as an important metric, I guess.
Yeah, as I say, you can, to families, you can park the stress a little bit that other students have regarding their grade 12 scores, more so than if you go to college because, the SAT is your other important exam. And the other great thing that I'll just throw out there for listeners, if you're not really aware of the SAT, you think, man, that's stressful. I've got to do well on that test. Well, you can take that test as many times as you need or as many times you like. So that's a heck of a good test in that way and very fair. You got every chance of getting the best score you need to get into college. So thanks for sharing that, mate. Look, we touched on it before about McDonald College and Voyager, but that's one of the things I think you've I guess a smart person does is surround themselves, and successful people do this as well, obviously, is surround yourself with key people who help you manage your goals and responsibilities as well as your commitments along the pathway. I guess just, I think McDonald College, it's worth talking a little bit more about them and just specifically how they operate. But, can you just give us an idea of the role they played in supporting you, Michael?
Yeah, so just a little bit backstory. So obviously I was at North Sydney Boys before from year 7 to 10, and then that's a academically selective school, obviously. And then it was kind of a bit difficult for me to balance my tennis and academics there simply because they are very academically stringent. So I ended up moving schools halfway through year 10 to the McDonald College, which is, it's a performing arts school, but they have like an integrated tennis program where, obviously we're going to Olympic Park, like I said before, 5 days of the week after school and training there with Voyager Tennis Academy, which is, one of the best tennis academies, probably the best tennis academy in Sydney. And then, so that was, huge for me. I mean, it was definitely a new environment coming to McDonald College, being, because it was very, tennis suddenly became, a much bigger part of my life compared to whereas at North Sydney. But, they were so good. I mean, I can't overstate, how important, McDonald College was in my overall development and then my ultimate, acceptance to all these schools. Because I think tennis is almost a sport that's unique in the sense that it requires so much kind of time commitment. I mean, I had friends from other schools who were trying to play tennis, maybe more, academic, private schools, stuff like that. They're trying to play tennis at the high level in year 12. And it just meant for them, missing so much school, missing all these exams, and they ultimately just couldn't balance both. Whereas I think McDonald College really provides that kind of integrated support system where they know that you're trying to aim for that stuff. So, if you miss an exam or if you miss a class, teachers will be emailing you after class to kind of sending you the work for you to do by yourself and stuff like that. And it's just about that, support system that they give you that really makes you feel like, you can do both. And I think that was so key for me ultimately when I, was applying to college and stuff like that.
Yeah, look, that's good points. As I said before, I think this is the way education may move to in Australia eventually. I don't know. I hope so, because when you get to America, Michael, you don't obviously know this yet, but you'll find that it's a bit like that as well. I mean, you're obviously at a very, very big institution over there that requires a lot academically, but the American system is all about providing that balance where your coaches and your professors talk to each other. They're all in on it. They're all working together to help you get the best outcome for your sport and your studies. And that's what I love about it. Whereas it's just the way it is in Australia. It's not a criticism. It's just the way it is. Where schools are for academics. Yes, there's sport offered, but they're not often working together like McDonald has been able to do with as you say, with Voyager Tennis Academy. So look, I hope there are others that come out and in other states and places that offer these opportunities, because I think that's, with more and more student athletes going to college that we see every year, the better. But just a quickly last thing on McDonald, we've just found them to be very, they're always get on the phone, get on email to us if they've got any questions, so that they make sure that they're giving the right advice to student athletes about subject selections and things like that, and the timing of when to do SAT exams. So they're making sure they're doing the right thing and make sure they're sharing the right accurate information with your with their student athletes. So very, very good. And Voyager, we work very closely with Voyager as well, because they're like-minded and they're very, very supportive of the US college pathway, as you know. Anything you'd like to say about, Voyager, I suppose, specifically about, how they've been able to develop you as a person and a player?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so Luke Bourgeois was my main coach of Voyager, and he was definitely a huge role model, I guess, for me in terms of, he was an amazing coach, but he also really taught me, I guess, definitely as a person as well. He helped me develop as a person. I feel like over the last 2 years, I didn't just get a lot better at tennis. I think I became, more confident. I think I became, more mentally tough. And I think that being one of Luke's students, and also just being, at Voyager, I think that really, catalyzed that growth. And I think that, Voyager was, I mean, they have a very good philosophy. I feel like they have a very good culture in the sense that, they don't teach you, it's just about, winning or stuff like that. They really teach you, it's about working hard, putting in the effort, and then seeing the results from that. And I think, that showed just not in my tennis, but also in my, overall personal growth. So, yeah.
Yeah. And you might not know this, Michael, and you wouldn't know this, but, Luke and I, we talk a lot, about you and other students, and we'll check in. Luke will often call us and say, look, how's Michael doing with everything, and is he a bit stressed, because I'll make sure I go a little bit easier at training. So things like that over the years just show me that that there's way more to coaching than what happens on the court, isn't it? So caring about your students and your players is probably the number one focus, I think. And Voyager definitely do that very well. So you've been very been lucky to have that support. And I also just want to mention how fantastic your parents have been, Michael. This is your chance to maybe just do a little public thank you to them if you if you would like. And I know you're sitting in your family home right now, but They might even be able to hear you. But how have they been a support for you?
Yeah, my parents are huge. I mean, I guess, I probably don't thank them enough, but I think, I mean, firstly, even my mom, she was the main person who actually wanted me to move from North Sydney Boys to McDonald College. Like, I mean, because it was a big move for us in terms because my family, academics has always been number one. Tennis has always just been this sort of side project where, I play for fun. But, ultimately in year 10, when Luke, told me that, I had the opportunity to come to McDonald College, my mom was the first one who said, do it because I don't know, she thought that life was more about just like getting good grades, and she thought that it would just be such an invaluable experience to me. And then she was right, obviously. And then I guess my dad as well. So once I moved to McDonald College, my dad was like the main guy who was there for me, driving me to tournaments, 6 a.m. training sessions. He was up at 4 a.m. Cooking breakfast and stuff like that. And they were just unbelievable. I'm honestly really lucky because I know a lot of my peers who might not have had such supportive parents, and I guess I'd say like 80% of my success is like a direct result from them. I can't thank them enough for sure.
Very, very well said, mate. So if I can get out, if my boy can grow up to say those things about us as parents, we'd be pretty happy with that, mate. So that's that. But that's right. I do remember talking to your mum and dad when you were making that decision to switch to McDonald, and I was very pleasantly surprised because, I think what your mum and dad saw was, okay, if you are going to go to college, you do need a customized approach here. Tennis is important, for getting the foot in the door to these colleges, and academics clearly is still going to be important. But I was impressed by that. So look, it's clearly been the right move for you, and all power to you. So. Look, I want to just jump back and talk about Harvard again because I think I just like talking about Harvard with you, Michael. But look, not long to go now, so you're going to be jumping on that plane to officially start as a Harvard student. When you arrive on campus as a freshman, what are you studying, mate?
Yeah, so they're pretty flexible actually. So you can pretty much study, whatever you'd like. But I think right now in my mind, I want to study something to do with like economics, maybe applied mathematics or like statistics or computer science, something like that. But I think definitely something along those lines, like economics, maths, something like that. Yeah.
Whatever it is, it all makes my brain hurt just hearing that. Actually, it all sounds way too hard. But and what are the aims to where do you want that to take you,
sure.
lead to?
So, I mean, I think immediately after college, I might want to work. I definitely want to stay in America, maybe work in New York, either in, maybe some finance sort of related roles, at least for maybe like 5-10 years. And then after that, I guess my end goal is to work in the public sector and you really like use, in terms of like work with organizations that use like kind of economics to like make change. So one organization that I really admire and hope to work for is like the World Bank. I just love working there. And maybe if I end up coming back to Australia, working in something like the RBA or the Treasury, something like that. So yeah.
Fantastic, mate. No, that's great. And just shows you how driven you are that you are thinking that far ahead. That's pretty rare. So that's fantastic, mate. And what other aspects of university life, are you most looking forward to?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm so excited for everything. I mean, I think like part of the reason why I wanted to go to America is because they have, that campus life, and also they have a big holistic focus on like extracurriculars and stuff like that. So I've been looking at some of the organizations. I mean, Harvard has over 400 clubs and extracurriculars. So they have like, and they're all have like such good funding and stuff like that. So there's definitely like, I want to join like Harvard debating, college debating union. They go for like tournaments every week, like over like to other colleges. And then there's also, Harvard Economics Review. They have a lot of different clubs. Really cool. So yeah, that's probably one of the biggest things.
No, mate. Well, we're excited for you. I think
Yeah.
Whatever clubs and things you get involved with, and including your tennis and your studies, I'm sure you'll do well. And look, we look forward to following it, mate. But it's already been such a special journey to witness watching your growth, I guess, over the last few years. You've already achieved so much. And we just can't wait to watch the next few years unfold. Hopefully next time you can join us on another podcast, maybe from your Harvard, dorm room. That'll be
Yeah, hopefully. Thanks so much, Chris, for having me.
yeah.
Really appreciate it. Had a lot of fun.
Pleasure, mate. No, great chatting and good luck.